afternoon, everyone. Thank you so much for being here. Happy Thursday. We are so thrilled and excited that you could join us for another of our webinars. Hello again to those of you we saw on Tuesday, and welcome to those who have not been able to join us yet this summer. We're so glad you're here. We're looking forward to the next hour and a half together. So we're going to hop right in. Today is part 2 of the AOR 3.1 for grades 5 through 9 kind of duo that we've done. We did part 1, I think it was June 4th. And today we are getting into part 2. So if you were not with us for part 1, don't worry, you'll be fine. And in just a few moments, a couple slides later, we're going to give you the recording to part 1 so that you can go back and see that if you did not have a chance to join us. So no worries there at all. All right, we're going to start with some introductions. So good afternoon. If you have not already been with us this summer or throughout the school year, my name is Brenna McCormick, and I'm the second year ELA Education Associate for the Office of Assessment and Standards on the standards side in ELA. And I have a couple of my colleagues today who are here and helping. You'll see them dropping links in the chat or maybe responding to some of your questions. But we have Tabitha Hughes, who is our middle level education associate. We have Mandy Hawker, who is our elementary education associate for ELA. And then we have Casey Prince Harvey, who is our humanities ed associate, as well as ELA support. So I'm thankful to have the dream team here with me today, tackling questions for me in the chat and making sure that you have all the information you need. You will, in just a moment, get a landing page in the chat as well as an attendance form. So if you will take a moment to open up your landing page and then put your information in that attendance form, that's one of the requirements for us to be able to provide you with some recertification credits for attending today. So I'll give everybody just a moment to get your attendance recorded and open up your landing page. Welcome, welcome to those of you who are just joining us. Casey is dropping in the landing page and attendance. If you want to go ahead and open that up. As a reminder, as we move forward, we're going to be sharing some instructional resources and supports and other activities, and they will all be accessible on your landing page. But just remember that the resources that we share in these presentations are just some of many examples. Curriculum is determined and selected at the local level in our state, and instruction should be based on student interest and need. So in addition to what is shared today, always be sure to consult your high quality instructional materials and your student assessments and how you know your kids to provide the best resources and engagements to support their learning. So as I mentioned, we are happy to announce that we are now able to offer recertification credit for your attendance at webinars, but there are 3 requirements, starting with the first, which is live attendance and participation. So you can check that one off. You're here with me live, so I'm so glad to see you. Number 2 is that we ask that you remain in attendance for the duration of the webinar. And then finally, at the very end of the webinar, we're going to ask you to complete a feedback survey. And we will use that to document that you were here and to get those certificates issued out to you within the next week. All right, I want to know who's with me today. So if you will, in the chat, give me your name, your district, and fun fact or something fun about your summer. All right. Good afternoon, everyone. Hi. That's okay. Oh, sorry, Mandy. Still working. Dog sitting this week. We love a pupper. We love pups on our team, except for Mandy. She doesn't really love pups, but she's got one. Exploring New York City, how fun. Riverbank Zoo, that is a fan favorite at my house. Going to a new school, move to a new district. You're moving from New York in 2 weeks. Is that what I'm moving from New York? Yeah, Elena. How exciting. And look at you already jumping in and getting prepared. That is awesome. Kate recently came from somewhere else too. I'm sorry, calling you out, Kate. Y'all can be friends. That you're both brand new coming from somewhere else. That's awesome. Congratulations, Crystal, starting your admin degree. Poolside right now, keeping an eye on your. I will be there in 10. I will be right there with you. Disney trip. Yes, we took our kids for the first time a couple months ago. It was wonderful. Oh, boys are at camp. We're missing them. I love reading and seeing what everyone's doing. Thank you for sharing. Remodeling your house. Oh, our team lead, Casey Cook, can relate to you on that. They're in the final stages of building and moving into their new home. And Dawn, thank you for booking my room as well. I will pack my bags and be ready to go with you to the Bahamas. So good to see all of you. I love seeing what a representation we have across our state. It truly speaks volumes of the work and dedication that you all put in, that you're here on a Thursday afternoon in the summer, doing everything you can to learn and grow. So thank you for that. We appreciate it. So just as a quick reminder, this is part 2 of a 2-part series. On June 4th, we had part 1, where we looked at the vertical articulation of AOR 3.1. We looked at shifts in content and complexity, indicator intent, and then the definitions of point of view and perspective and how they were different. Casey's going to put the link for that video in the chat if you want to go back and look at that recording if you were not able to join us live. Today, we're going to look at the instructional applications. So now that we have the foundation of what that indicator is and what it looks like in grades 5 through 9, how do we do it, right? How do we actually translate that to classroom instruction? Our purpose is to explore instructional strategies for AOR 3.1 for grades 5-9 in order to enhance instruction and improve student outcomes. So as we move forward today, just keep that in the back of your mind that everything that we're doing, the goal is to make ourselves better, get better at getting better, always moving forward, doing what we can to make sure that we're teaching to the indicator intent, we're doing our classroom assessments to the indicator intent, so that ultimately we have those improved student outcomes. All right. I'm going to show you a couple of common beliefs, couple of statements about teaching. Before I show you, I want you to know that I can't prove that these statements are 100% accurate. This is not necessarily research based. I didn't double check the facts, but I want us to imagine that even half of what these statements say is true. Okay, so stay with me on that. Here's the first one. You can give me a thumbs up if you would say yes, at least half of that is true. Yes, right? We make more minute by minute decisions than brain surgeons, and that's why you're exhausted every day, right? My team was joking the other day that why were we so tired at the end of the day? Well, it's because we've lived a whole week in 8 hours, right? All right, here's your next one. So this study says there are 205 trillion instructional options available. So if you're like, man, how do I teach so-and-so, and you Google it, you're going to get more than one answer, right? You're going to get a lot of answers, probably more, Monica, that's right. Variations of them, absolutely. All right, and the last one. There are 4 educational decisions made by an average teacher every minute, 1,500 every school day. And again, not sure where they got their data, but I believe it. Just haven't been in the classroom, right? So some of you I see are laughing, but I saw at least one like very concerned emoji face in the chat. Like, that's a lot. And now you've got me feeling overwhelmed. So my question is, how do we do it? How do you make instructional decisions about practices, strategies, activities, and when there's more than a trillion ideas to choose from? What does that look like? You can unmute or put something in the chat. How do you do it? Because we do every day. All right, Mary, one step at a time. What's relevant? Paralyzed. Yeah, absolutely. That's something our team talks about too, is that you get to a point where you're like frozen and it's hard to move forward, right? We base
That's why
our
it's nice
ideas.
to have a collaboration group if you can.
Yes, absolutely, Mary. Absolutely. We were just talking about that. How important it is to be able to have a group that you can very safely bounce ideas off of, toss things around. Hopefully, you'll find that this is a space for those kind of things. I love the idea that we're using data. We're looking at our specific students, collaboration, knowing our students' needs, pre-assessments. Elena, that's so important that you have the right to change your mind, right? And really the responsibility to change your mind. If you start going and you realize, hey, this ain't working, we got to step back and punt. Um, Angie says she was on the phone with Verizon when this started and told him she was a teacher so she could multitask. So there you go. Yeah. And so I, some of these statements are kind of silly. It's funny to think about, but in reality, um, we have a really hard job and it's a really important job. And there's a lot of materials and resources out there to the point that it can be overwhelming. And so, as we move forward today, we're going to talk about really evidence based instruction and how to tell when something's evidence based and why that matters and how that can really help us narrow our playing field a little bit, of what we're choosing from when we're inundated with all of the options that are out there. How do we narrow that focus down? So, thank you for participating in that and thinking about, just how much you do each day. We're going to start by reviewing AOR 3.1 very, very briefly. We just want to make sure we all remember because June 4th was like 7 days ago. Who remembers what we did, this morning, let alone 7 days ago? So we're going to take a minute, review that, and then we're going to hop into that idea of evidence-based instruction, followed by the grade level application, some real examples of how you can begin teaching AOR 3.1, and then we'll finish with clarity and closure. So how do you feel about that? Good? Thumbs up? Mary says she's been in 14 meetings since that meeting. All right. So yes, let's remind ourselves. So if you were able to be with us last week, you might have to pull up your note catcher. But if you'll take a look at the vertical articulation of AOR 3.1, and Casey just put it in the chat if you need a bigger version. Tell me what stuck with you from last week. What's rolling around in your head? Maybe as you prepared to hop in on this meeting, what were you thinking about? What were some of those big takeaways? Difference between a point of view and perspective, the confusion of terms. Yes, Jessica, what those bolded words, we need to explicitly teach those new skills and content. The transition from grade 7 to 8. The glossary is your guide and friend. Yes, see, big smiles from Casey on that one. Sticking just to the standards and not beyond. Oh, that's a good point, Mariana, that, oftentimes we talked, I think, about how sometimes we hold our students to a higher expectation than what they're ready for. So just being sure that what's in the indicators, what we're teaching, making sure we clearly understand the terminology so that students can. Very good. Excellent points. So as a reminder, AOR 3.1 deals with literary text. So the strategies that we're going to look at today are pertaining to literary text. If you want more information about the definitions and expectations regarding like key terms, informational text, that will be AOR 4.1, which is the next middle school webinar. So be sure to join us for that. So let's take a look at the key vocabulary, since someone mentioned that specifically about what's first introduced at each grade level. So if you take a moment, I'm going to give you a moment to read, point out a couple things, and then you can drop in the chat if you'd like something, from your grade level. What are you responsible for teaching for the first time? Unreliable narrator. That's right. That was a big one. Amy says nothing new for her in 5th grade. So you've got a really cool opportunity to really expand. Yep. Absolutely. So you can see that progression of vocabulary that in kindergarten, we're starting with the author, illustrator. 1st grade, we talk about who is telling the story, but they don't actually really get introduced to that term narrator until 3rd grade. We're looking at the character's perspective in 2nd grade and then point of view in 4th grade. But again, good question that got brought up in the first webinar was, well, where's third person? Where's limited? Where's omniscient? Where are they? And those are not named particularly specifically in the indicator. The only thing you have to make sure that you're teaching is first person and third person. The others is a great way to extend should you have students who are ready for that. 5th and 6th, no new vocabulary, but then in 7th, you get that introduction of unreliable narrator, which is brand new. And then suspense, dramatic irony, followed up with humor and situational irony. And so that's what it looks like for us as we're moving from the very, very beginning up through what we might consider to be our middle levels. That's exactly right, Casadina, and I hope I said that correctly, that when there's no new vocabulary introduced, chances are it's because the task or the rigor of the indicator itself has increased or changed. Very good. Any questions about AOR 3.1 before we move forward? Because I said just real quick and dirty preview so that we know what we're moving into. Awesome. All right, so let's talk about evidence-based instruction and how we might help ourselves narrow down from however 205 trillion options that we have. Okay, so we're going to do an activity called a stack response, and I've used this with students, so it's definitely something that you could adapt for classroom use with informational text. So the decisions we make when we are choosing instructional strategies and techniques are incredibly important. They should be intentional. We should be doing things on purpose. So each of the strategies that we will look at today is rooted in evidence-based research and was chosen on purpose to meet a specific need. So before we take a look at them, I want us to make sure that we all understand what evidence-based research is. It's kind of one of those terms that are like point of view and perspective. They get used interchangeably with research-based, right? And there is a difference between evidence-based and research-based. So I'm going to give you 7 to 10 minutes to read the article that Casey has put in the chat and organize your thinking using the stack response. So what does the text say? What does it make you think about? How can you apply it to your practice? And what questions do you have? Now, Casey also put a graphic organizer in the chat that you can make a copy of and type your answers in. You're welcome to just think these things, to write them down on a piece of paper. But I did want to give you that graphic organizer for you to see in case you want to use it with your students or you want to keep track of your thinking today. So 7 to 10 minutes. As you finish, if you will just pop in the chat that, hey, I'm done, I'm ready to chat, and we'll know, I'll kind of get a gauge of when we can move forward. So I'm going to stop talking. I'm going to let you read. Some people are finishing up. Let's give it just 1 or 2 more minutes. Excellent. Thank y'all. So several of you already started putting some thinking and some quotes in the chat. So we're gonna do a little reflection, a little response based on the STACK acronym. So the first thing I want to know is, what does the text say? What is something, maybe it could be a direct quote that you noticed or a summarization of the text as a whole, but what was your big takeaway? And feel free to unmute, or you can put in the chat. I know we use the chat a lot, but you're always welcome to talk. That culture of continuous improvement for the teacher and student. Yes. In our office, we call that getting better at getting better. We're never the best you can be, because once you're the best, that insinuates there's nowhere else to go, right? I did put a link to another article that we often use. It's called What's Better Than Best Practices, which is just another like semantics language thing of, we can call them better practices, because that helps us think, what, there could be a better practice. The best isn't as far as we can go, or as good as we can do. Evidence-based is a better choice.
I thought it was
Research
really interesting that there was a distinction between the research and the evidence-based. That research-based is kind of like the first step to being evidence-based, and that it has to
Yes.
be controlled. So I think that it would be really interesting to see, who does which thing. Like, it sounds like the research-based practices things are the practices that maybe someone working in a doctorate program might be using to become evidence-based. I don't know.
Yeah. No, that's so great that you said that, because I was thinking the same thing too. It's almost like step one, and then somebody else took it a little bit further, like, here's my theory, now somebody else prove it. So that's the research versus the evidence. I love that point. Let's see what else we've got. All right. So what are you thinking about now? Maybe or how could you apply this? Jessica, that's such a good point, that students need to see us model critical thinking so that they can apply it themselves. And how powerful could it be if you said, why we're doing this, when students are saying, man, why we got to do this? Why are you making us do these things? What if you said, because it's evidence-based and someone did a lot of research and I chose this on purpose with a purpose? That's valuable and powerful for students to know the real thinking and planning that's going behind the intention. Eli, that's a great point too. Equity. How equitable is the evidence that proves that the program works? Yeah. Does it take into account all possible districts or classroom scenarios? Does it plan for all students or the average student? Those are great questions. Excellent. All right. So let me show you a couple of our findings. Pretty much basically what you guys are picking up as well. That, the research is based on theory, initial research findings, but it may not yet be widely tested or proven in diverse practical applications, which I think is what Eli was getting at. That idea of like, did we just present this in one district, or have we also gone to the other side of the state and said, did it work there? It may still be in those experimental stages or early implementation phases. And our evidence-based strategies are based on empirical evidence demonstrating effectiveness in real-world settings, supported by extensive, high-quality empirical research showing consistent positive outcomes, and widely implemented and proven effective in various educational settings. So, the strategies we're going to look at today are primarily based in the work of the educational researcher John Hattie. I'm sure many of you have heard of John Hattie. He did some extensive work in evaluating the effectiveness of a lot of instructional strategies, and his research on the factors that influence student achievement was compiled in the development of the concept visible learning. And so he's got several texts about visible learning. Casey put a link in the chat to his website. But essentially, visible learning is a comprehensive synthesis of over 800 meta-analyses relating to student achievement. So he took all that research and evidence and compiled it to determine which instructional strategies have the most significant impact on student learning. There's a lot of categories he looks at. He looks at like teacher behaviors, instructional strategies, things that are like outside of our control, you know, those home things that are happening. But he introduces this concept of effect size to measure that influence. And so it's a statistical measure that indicates the strength of the relationship between an instructional strategy and student achievement. His benchmark, what he calls the hinge point, is 0.4. So if you look on this just half circle example here, 0.4 are considered to have a positive impact on student learning. Anything above 0.4 is considered to have a significant positive impact. So maybe more than what you would see in a typical year's growth. Okay, so throughout the rest of the presentation, you're going to hear me reference the effect sizes of the strategies being shared. So if I say, hey, this has an effect size of 0.59, that lets you know that, oh, this is a strategy that evidence has shown to significantly accelerate student learning. So I just wanted to give you a little bit of foundation so that when you see those numbers, that effect sizes have been chosen, or excuse me, strategies have been chosen because of the effect size that they are known to have in student learning. And great text, great website, highly encourage the study of John Hattie's work. So just a one sentence wrap up before we move into the actual application. What is one sentence you can say to wrap up our discussion on evidence-based strategies?
They work for people, so why shouldn't it work for you?
There you go. Proven and preferred. Love that, Amanda. Thank you, Amy. Yes. Prove it to use it. Monica, like it. And put that on a little sticky note on your computer, right? Elena, great point. You're still able to personalize for your class and your kids. If you're rooted in that evidence-based strategy and you need to maybe modify a little bit or adapt that strategy to meet your students' needs, that's wonderful. I think we have some personalized learning friends with us today who would probably really appreciate that comment of always keeping the student in mind. Real impact for real littles. I loved it. Practice and proven. Hey, Nadine. Yep. Lindsay. Oh, yeah, we got a bunch of y'all. I only can see Sarah. So, like, there are a lot of y'all in here. Thank you. Promoting student engagement. Absolutely. All right. So now I feel like we've laid the foundation. We've reminded ourselves what AOR 3.1 is all about. We've got a grasp on evidence-based strategies and why we're choosing those particular strategies. And we're also have a foundation now in John Hattie and what all these statistical numbers are going to mean when we're moving forward. We know that anything above a 0.4 is proven to have maybe the potential to accelerate student learning. So let's hop into some examples of the grade level application. So as we move into this, it's going to be a little bit of the first step is going to be some self-exploration. And I want you to use this strategy. I just call it the MOP strategy. It's not very fancy, but the MOP strategy, where each activity that you look at, I'd like you to consider how the activity would support students' mastery of AOR 3.1. I believe we talked about this last time, and I know we've talked about it in our high school series, if you've been with us in those this summer, that every activity, every lesson, most likely is not going to hit every aspect of an indicator. Oftentimes, you're going to have to do multiple lessons, multiple activities, multiple strategies to fully teach to the full intent of the indicator. So if these activities represent one small part of that full indicator, what is it supporting? What piece is it supporting? The O is where would the activity fall within the overall organization of an instructional unit? So is this something that you would do to front load information for your students? Is it something that you would do as a culmination project? Is it somewhere where you might use it as enrichment or remediation? And then finally, what prior knowledge would students need to be able to complete the activity? So is there something in the activity that they wouldn't be able to do it if they didn't already know blank? So that's kind of the thinking I want you to do as you look at this. And I'm going to show you a fifth grade example just so you see how to navigate it. So each of the grade levels has an example page that looks like this. And at the top, I've included the indicator, as well as the indicator insight, if there is one. I've included that key vocabulary, and then I'm giving you an instructional application. So if you click here, you'll see the activity. You can open it right on up. This middle column gives you the effect size. And then it's just a general description on the far right as to what that activity is. For example, fifth grade is about annotations. So just to make sure we have a level playing field, everybody knows what an annotation is. We've got a general description there. So you'll open up each grade level. You can look at the activity, look at the vocab, all the things included, and then think through the lens of that MOP reflection, mastery, organization, and prior knowledge. We'll do the same thing that we did earlier, where you just kind of let me know when you're finishing up, and that will let me gauge how much time you need. Casey has put in the chat both your example folder and the note catcher if you choose to use it. That helps you kind of think through MOP, mastery, organization, prior knowledge. Are there any questions? I know that's a lot of links. So are there any questions before I stop talking and give you some time? All right, excellent. We're here if you need us. Just pop something in the chat. And then as you finish up, let us know. noticing some people starting to finish up. So I'm going to give you maybe 2 more minutes or so before we step to our next part of the conversation. Okay, as I see people finishing up and putting comments in the chat, we're going to do something that we have not yet done in one of our summer webinar series. So brace yourselves, my guinea pigs. Um, and I'm going to put you into some breakout rooms to have some conversation. And I know some of you are like, oh, Lord, now I'm just going to have to get off. I don't want to do that, but it's okay. This is our summer bunch, and this is a good bunch of people to talk and to just think about things, think about what you've observed. What did you look at? What did you like? We're going to use that same USA reflection that we've been using, where what's one thing that you're excited to use? What's one idea that you want to share with a colleague, and what's maybe something you can adapt? Mary says she wants to go to the 7th grade group. Well, good. They're going to be mixed groups this time. We considered doing grade level groups, but that was really complicated. So because we don't know what grades everyone teaches. So we're going to do mixed groups. And I just want you to chat. What are you noticing? How can these things be adapted? What new ideas do you have that you're like, oh, you know what? This made me think of this that I already do in my classroom. And just kind of gather that thinking somewhere, because we'll do a whole group share out when we return. Yeah, say that again. Use, share, adapt. Use, share, adapt. So how can you use what you looked through? Who do you need to share it with? And then how can it be adapted? So it looks like Mandy's making my breakout rooms for me. Did you do that, Mandy? Okay. I went to do it and it said Mandy's managing the rooms, and I said, hey, okay. All right. So Mandy, if you will open those rooms, and we'll give it, let's say 10 minutes to 2:50, or excuse me, 3 o'clock to 2:50 would be 1 minute, 3 o'clock, and then we'll bring everybody back. So thank you for embracing that. And now we might have to do more of those in future webinars. Okay. Yes. Oh gosh, yes. Yeah, so many good ideas. As a matter of fact, I told a couple of people, be prepared to share, because I'm going to call you out. So we're going to start with Jessica, because she had some really great extension ideas. Particularly, I loved your idea for the crime scene activity, and she is joined today by Ethan, who is just the cutest thing I've ever seen. I told Ethan he would get his own renewal certificate for being here today. So Jessica, will you share some of the extension ideas you were thinking about?
Sure. So hi, everybody. We were talking first about that 7th grade, the criminal perspectives and the unreliable narrator thing. And it was just a neat, idea. And one of the things that we were just talking about is an extension writing activity would be really interesting after they had already looked at them and ranked them. Just having kids randomly select a card that had a number on them, or do like a random number generator or something per kid, and have them write the statement that of the ranking or whatever. Like you could have a discussion whole class and decide on the rankings, so kind of like an individual and then a paired and then discussion as a whole class, and these are the rankings, and then everybody would get those numbers or whatever.
Yeah.
So lots of discussion and writing and reading and all the good things.
I love that because it incorporates your writing. If you've been with us on our our mini macro venture for high school this summer, what a great like mini or micro of writing the witness statement after you do that. So, love it. Okay, keep going.
The other one that I was looking at, and because it applies really the most to me, is the 8th grade one with the group of friends versus old lady perspective. And I was just trying to think about ways to incorporate either discussion or writing with them. And one of the things that we kind of played around with in terms of ideas was giving like one group one perspective and one group the other perspective, and posing some kind of a question like, is their fear justified? But the one doesn't know the other's perspective, so having them kind of debate or discuss almost. And then an extended writing activity might be having them continue the story. So that's their starting point, kind of like their inciting incident or what have you, and then have them continue to write that narrative in that perspective to extend it. So, again, discussion and writing, and those kind of the two that we talked about.
Yep, our team was just talking about narrative writing earlier because that's going to be one of our next webinars for high school. And what a great example of really pulling in that narrative piece, because over the years that seems to have gotten lost, particularly in the older grades. As you move up, we've done less and less narrative writing and more informative, expository, argumentative. So I love that idea. All right, somebody else, share me something that you chatted about. And you can put it in the chat or you can unmute, but I love hearing your voices.
When we were talking with our group, I just was speaking about, I grew up in the projects in Pittsburgh. People don't know that. It doesn't matter. I'm not embarrassed about it. It's just that my perspective of what I think I might see might be different than Jack of the South, who might see it, the cute little boy Jack of the South, or someone who's from a totally different culture, like that has just come here from, a Muslim country, or come here from a country with a lot of terrorism going on or whatever. I mean, we all could look, I mean, some guy might think, that isn't that big of a deal. And another guy's like, oh my gosh, like the world's coming to an end because of what they see. One, perspective actually matters culturally too. So I just wanted to say that.
Yeah, it's a great point. Eli, talking about video games to incorporate unreliable narrator. There are few things as relevant to middle school boys than video games. So, or, husbands these days, like mine.
Yes.
Just throwing that out there, always on a video game. So I love that idea. Absolutely. All right. More ideas coming in the chat. Let's hear from one more person before we move on. So one more person share something that was happening in your group. And our personalized learning colleagues, you are welcome to join in too. I saw y'all chatting, and if y'all heard anything, feel free to share that as well.
Hi, this is Ellen from Spartanburg, District
Hey,
5.
Ellen.
And I just had made the comment how I really love the how in the I can't remember what it's called, but where the first person and third person were side by side, and
Mhm.
how they were short, which but very to the point for readers who are struggling. Maybe they don't feel so overwhelmed with so much to read in a short period of time. And they can see how, if they haven't mastered knowing the difference between first and third point of view, how they can see that right side by side and compare it very easily. And the phrase that came to mind was kind of a light bulb moment. You know,
Mm,
maybe that could cause them to have a light bulb moment seeing those two passages side by side.
yeah, absolutely. I love a side by side. For me, visually, that's just so easy to really see those differences. I appreciate that.
Mhm.
Anybody else have anything they want to share or say? All right, everybody in the chat now, give me your most important thing. What's the most important thing you're taking away from that time? Perspective. Ideas. Mm. Jessica, that's a great point. Collaborating with different grade levels to gain perspective. Perspectives can be perspective. Yes. There are fun, engaging activities to help with tricky concepts. Elena, yes, it's so nice to discuss ideas with fellow educators. I saw someone mentioned a minute ago that you don't often get the opportunity to visit with people across the state, and that is one huge benefit of the virtual world. You can't deny that, right? Encouragement. Don't we all need that every day? Look, the tears are coming again, y'all. I promise. I cry. Oh, goodness. I love it. Such good ideas. I appreciate this so much. Yes, Eleanor. We are not alone. Mandy, that's such a good point. It promotes instructional efficacy. That's kind of a term that we've been using on our team. That idea that, I believe that we all have self-efficacy. We believe that we can make a difference or we wouldn't be in webinars like we're in today, right? We have the self-efficacy. But the instructional efficacy, that belief that we truly understand the intent of the indicators and we know how to teach them and assess them, that's the instructional efficacy. And we're absolutely increasing that. And it can only be stronger the more of us that are together. Oh, yes, Mary. When you're a coach, you are often on an island, right? Absolutely. Thank you, Casadina. Yes. Okay. Such good comments. All right. So let's finish up today with a little bit of clarity and closure. Think back to our purpose today, which was to explore some instructional strategies to enhance our instruction, to improve student outcomes. And I'm going to throw in there the instructional efficacy piece that Mandy brought up, that idea that we are more confident in our ability to instruct to the intent of the indicator. And I always ask to describe one way this purpose was met. I think you have already been doing that in the chat, but if you have an additional comment, I'd love to hear it. How have we met our purpose for today? We've got some examples. I saw someone refer to one of them as a springboard, right? Like sometimes all you need is just one little idea to spark so many others. Absolutely. Wonderful. Absolutely, Lisa. Yes, and thank you for bringing that back up, Kate. That hinge point of point 4, right? Of making sure that we're choosing strategies that will have a great influence. All right, our last reflection before we do our feedback and head on our way to whatever great thing we have planned this Thursday afternoon. I'd like for you to consider the 4 C's. Just choose one. Monica, we make these up for the most part. We do some Google, like some searching around and pull from what we did in the classroom and literally have brainstorming sessions where we're like, what can we do? But for the most part, we make them up. So there's not a specific place where where we find them. I kind of just take a concept from John Hattie's research, honestly, and then adapt it. So okay. Connection, conversation, commitment, or change. Pick one. You can make a connection between your work and our learning today. Who will you have a conversation with about today's learning? Write down one thing you can commit to try and what change might come about because of your commitment. Love this. Eli, love it. When you develop it, share it with me, and then I'll share it with everyone. I love that, Amanda. I love that you mentioned modeling, Mariana, because we need, teachers need modeling, just like our students. Jessica, yes. It's a hard task, but an important one, that vertical planning. Oh, Lisa, I love that. You've got a ELA-PLC hub. Love it. Love that connection to social studies, always whenever you can bring in other content areas. Sharing is caring, yes. Excellent. Renee, we use that metaphor also of that idea of having a hook to hang your learning on, because as teachers, as adults, we need that too, right? We've got to have some kind of background information, prior information. There's a quote that says, learning something has to exist for you to be able to learn something new. Like there has to be something already there for you to learn. So excellent. The importance of vocabulary, commit to evidence-based strategies. Love it. And guys, 9 times out of 10, what you're doing is good teaching that is evidence-based. I mean, it just is. But it's always important to like go back to the beginning and think, how can we just be sure that we're doing what's absolute. Thank you, Casey. You have to know something to do something. Not quite what I said, but you know, along the same lines. All right, friends, the final thing that I'm going to ask you to do is to please provide some feedback. You could see on the screen, we also have 4 more middle school webinars for this summer. The next 2 will be AOR 4.1 and then followed by AOR 5.3. You are going to get the link to the summer webinars in the chat if you want to sign up for additional ones. Also on that link are our high school and our foundations of literacy. So our like K2 friends, there's links there. And you're welcome to come to any and all of them. You don't have to come just to the ones that you serve. If you're interested in learning more about another area or think possibly there's something that you can adapt for your grade level, join us, please do. We're going to put the feedback form in the chat as well. If you'll take a moment to give feedback, and again, that is what we will use to present your recertification credit. You should have already received your certificates if you've been joining us prior, certificates for the past ones. And I will try to get these out to you again by within a week's time. So I'll be quiet so that you can focus. And as always, we will listen and linger, answer any questions that you might have. You can, Cassidy, you can, after you finish the feedback form, if you have not registered for the other ones and you want to, you're welcome to do that. Oh, personalized learning. Will someone drop y'all's link to your student-centered instruction webinar or training? Can't get my words out. Our personalized learning team, if one of you want to unmute and kind of tell us what you do, because I think what your work is so in line with what we're talking about today. I'm sorry to put y'all on the spot, and share what you guys offer.
Nadine, are you still in here?
I don't think she is. You might be
Okay.
the lone
I
person
might be
now.
the lone. Yes. I'm Lindsay Yurda. I work with our coaches in the personalized learning team on the personalized learning team. They follow a regional coaching model. So I've just dropped the link in the chat. That's to our website, and you can click on the contact our office, and that will show our coaches region. So if you, for example, are in Rock Hill, Kristen Logan would be your coach. If you are in Charleston, you'll see Heather Bross is down there, and they will. It doesn't matter who you email. You can email any of them and they'll respond to you and help connect you with the coach that's responsible for your region. Also on the website, if you click on professional development, you can see the variety of PD that our coaches offer. There are some live events like design workshops and inquiry labs, and then there's some self-paced modules as well. So that's just a super, super quick overview, but feel free to contact any of us and get a little bit more information on that PD piece.
Thank you,
can I
Lindsay.
ask a
Of
question?
course.
I'm so sorry. My school district is the whole state. Where would you like me to choose?
You can pick any of them.
Oh,
Any
okay.
of the
Thank
coaches.
you.
Yep.
Thank you.
Yes.
Yes, Lindsay's team is phenomenal, and personalized learning and ELA are really trying to build some bridges moving forward and make sure that we're working together to serve the state the best that we can. So I appreciate y'all being here, Lindsay. Sorry to put you on the spot, but thank you.
No. Listen, Brenna, I had a meeting with Mandy today and was singing y'all's praises. I love coming to your PDs. I learned something new every single time. So thank you for all the work you guys have put into this.
Thank you. You're gonna make me cry again. This will be time 3, making up for any times I missed, I guess. Okay, if there is anything else that anybody needs, we are here. If you have finished your feedback form and are ready to head on out, feel free to do that. We appreciate you and hope you have a great rest of your week, and we'll see you next week, probably.
We're gonna orgize.